He recently had to get surgery to remove a blood clot in his right upper extremity, aka his arm, but this is potentially life-threatening. It's a blood clot we're talking about here, so it's obviously vital they handle this with a lot of caution for his return, and his current timetable on a return it's not known. They just don't really know. Hopefully, first and foremost, he's okay health-wise. And then from a baseball standpoint, that's of course a big arm that, if not able to come back this year, hurts a lot. So let's hope again for the best, firstly with his health just in general, but also that he can come back soon.
This is the worst.
Thank you for being here, subscribed or not, and if you haven't joined the 49% Elite Humans, consider hitting that button if you enjoy the videos. As in the last video I made covering the Phillies, like I just showed, I did mention the Zach Wheeler situation, the fact that he had a recent scare of a blood clot, which on one hand isn't as much of a season-ending injury as an elbow or shoulder issue, but on the other hand, even though not necessarily as long of a sit-out, if taken care of, it can be more serious because it's a blood clot that's just naturally more life-threatening than a UCL tear. I've never snapped my elbow in half. I'm sure it's not fun, but it's not life-threatening. But again, as serious as a blood clot is, if handled well, Wheeler's season was not completely done. At first, it seemed like there was at least a decent, if not good chance he was coming back, which is something I wouldn't say the Phillies desperately need, but something the Phillies kind of desperately need. Not that the Phillies have zero pitching without him. Christopher Sanchez has been just as good as Wheeler this year. Jesus Luzardo and Ranger Suarez, although not necessarily smooth all the way out, have overall been having solid seasons. A lot of lefties. Yeah, didn't fully realize that until now. Well, it doesn't really matter what arm he uses as long as it's effective. That's what he said. But yeah, overall, this rotation, even without Wheeler, isn't some abomination to what a starting rotation is supposed to stand for. But having Wheeler really does go a long way, especially in a short series during the postseason. The playoffs are locked up. That's not what anyone in Philly should be worried about, and the same can be said for the division, really. At this point, it's about how well off are you for a postseason series, and having Wheeler would be so helpful. Unfortunately, that won't be happening. Wheeler did get surgery to fix his blood clot situation, but the hope that that was it and that it wasn't a sign of anything deeper, well, that's not the case. Wheeler's blood clot was part of something deeper, leading to the other issue that he was diagnosed with venous thoracic outlet syndrome, and the recommendation is to undergo thoracic outlet decompression surgery in the coming weeks to remove a rib. There is good and bad news to this. The good news is, even though this procedure is considered risky, the version of the procedure Wheeler is getting is not one that can damage nerves, and that's important because this is exactly how a guy like Steven Strasburg's career ended. There are two versions of thoracic outlet syndrome, venous and neurogenic. Strasburg had the latter, and the result was his nerves being in the oven for 3 days, cooked, his career was done. Merrill Kelly is an example of someone who got the venous version, and it really couldn't have gone much better. He got his surgery in September of 2020, was ready to go for the start of the 2021 season, and has been for the most part as reliable as Starbucks spelling your name wrong. Okay, maybe not that reliable, but the point is he's fared out really well since his surgery, which is good news for Wheeler, obviously. His blood clot situation, although a little scarier in ways, is much more straightforward than nerve issues. The diagnosis and recovery are more straightforward, so that's all good. Hopefully Wheeler's recovery goes as well as Kelly's, but another reason why this sucks is just yet another way to bone Wheeler out of a potential Cy Young award. I mean, when it's all said and done, Zach Wheeler may go down as one of the greatest pitchers in history to never win a Cy Young award. But most importantly for the Phillies is the meantime, the bad news for the Wheeler situation in the meantime. He's done for the year. So what does this mean? I mean, shit, they could use Merrill Kelly right about now. Well, this latest crappy news actually in a way fits what I was saying in the last Phillies video, that in many ways this is a team much more flawed than last year's team or the 2023's Phillies or the group that went to the World Series. The offense is just a little weaker, pitching staff, although good, a little more questionable. Well, now take Zach Wheeler away. I mean, damn, that's like taking Iron Man away from the Avengers. Like I said, it's not like this rotation without him is awful, but Wheeler's just such a big loss that could cost the Phillies in the end. Time will tell, but right now, this is the last thing the Phillies wanted to hear with their pitching staff. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching. Love you. Bye.